Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navigating Global Frontiers or NGF News. My name is Alec, and we have Josh on the line. Today, we got two latest global developments. We're going to be talking about the U.S. sanctions on Turkish firms for helping Russia avoid sanctions, as well as China and Venezuela signing new trade and tourism agreements. So, we're gonna
Hmm.
go straight into it, but actually, before we go straight into it, please follow us on our social medias and make sure to visit our website as well, www.ngfnews.com. We got a bunch of blog posts for you guys to read through and enjoy. So yeah,
Yeah, lots
perfect.
of juicy stuff.
Oh yeah. So U.S. sanctions on Turkish firms. The United States has announced a good set of sanctions targeting individuals and companies in various countries, not just Turkey, but primarily Turkey, for selling Western technology to Russia for use of the use of it in Ukraine. So that's kind of big. Now, Turkey is a country that is kind of sits in between the West and Eastern countries. They tried to serve as a mediator, especially for the Ukraine war. They have been trying to be the center, kind of the mediator, the middle person between the West, between NATO countries and Russia. So the fact that they are selling technology to Russia for the war effort, I think they passed the line of being a middle person between NATO
Yeah.
and Russia. They
Yeah,
crossed the line here.
Turkey is going through. Well, they just won their election. Erdogan has just been reelected, and obviously, we have done a latest global developments episode on that. So please check that out if you want to know more about the Turkish elections and Turkish politics. But yeah, we are seeing 150 targets, including the country's largest car maker, that the United States has sanctioned. It includes businesses and one Turkish official, which I find very interesting. Um, that this is a deeply troubling for the NATO alliance and for the United States and their allies. Because, like Alex said, yes, Turkey has been the bridge between Russia and the United States and NATO, but they've also been the bridge between the United States, NATO, and the Middle East. So they're a double kind of, it's a double whammy, for lack of a better term. Losing the trust in Turkey is not what the United States and NATO wants to see right now, especially when they're still trying to get Sweden over the finish line into becoming a NATO member. They got Finland. The next one is trying to get Sweden over the finish line. And with these sanctions that are being imposed on Turkish companies and Turkish officials, and also with potentially a Turkish government that is, I'm not going to use the word allying, but leaning more towards the Russians, this could cause lots of issues. Maybe one of the other reasons why the Swedes weren't being sent through is because Turkey is leaning more towards the Russians. Those are accusations, but those are things that now we have to consider as national security purposes.
I was double checking the Sweden and NATO thing, but yeah,
Yeah.
they still have a pathway into NATO, and this is not what I agree. This is not what NATO kind of expected and wanted. And the next question is now whether or not do we can we trust Turkey now, because they served as a trustful middle person, but now it's like what the heck, like what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean the trust is going to be you know almost to the point of being severed at this point. From what Washington and our intelligence has come out with is that they have made not just a couple but hundreds of shipments that were sanctioned items and goods to the Russians. All of this was sanctioned right when the war was started. So these items were not allowed to be given into or put into Russian territory. They also have helped with construction and repair services of Russian ships. Like That is a big one. Sending in goods and maybe potentially technology, maybe we could have gotten over because okay, technology is one thing, but repairing ships that are going to be used, that's a whole nother ballgame. That is, you know, basically prepping the Russians for war and
Hmm.
invasions on the little area of Crimea. I mean, that's dangerous.
Yeah, and well, the West that technology is being used for even the ones that we thought were harmless are still being used for some purpose for Russia as a
Yeah.
part of the war effort. It's like Russia is taking this technology and engineering it or whatever they're doing with it. We don't know the full extent of what they have done with our goods, but they're using it for the war effort. And Turkey is not the only country that's been sanctioned. It's the UAE, Georgia, and was it one more country or is it that's just it? Yeah, it's just UAE and Georgia.
Yeah.
For they sanctioned the UAE for preventing them, well, because of the for natural gas, and that Russian companies were involved in the development of their liquefied natural gas project, which a UAE company was involved, and they were also sanctioned.
I'm
And
sure
for
the UAE
Georgia,
dealt with that very quickly, though.
dealt with that like how? Like they just stopped
Like
or?
they went up to the company and said, "You got to stop that," because the UAE was one of the biggest bangers of the drum in the Middle East of like we're
Mhm.
not going to side with Russia. Like they were one of the big drummers.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
So, hmm. I haven't heard
I'm sh-
anything else on like what the
I haven't
UAE's
heard anything either.
response was, but I won't
I'm sure
doubt
it was
that
dealt
they're
with
gonna,
though.
yeah. Hopefully it was dealt with. But
Yeah, Georgia's
yeah.
surprising, but not as surprising as many people may think because they do have a Russian backed president at the moment, but their people right now are causing mass chaos in the capital city to try and I'm gonna use the word um, dismantle the government very lightly. It's not a coup for sure yet, but there it's definitely turmoil in Georgia right now.
Hmm. I think my next question is now what will NATO countries do with Turkey? Are they going to be a trustworthy partner now? What do you think the next steps are for NATO in handling Turkey?
Well, interesting thing. If you read an article, I read it in our NGF news website. I wrote an article on the recent training session. 41,000 troops, NATO troops being
Mm,
trained on simulations of what it could look like if the Russians invaded, or vice versa if we had to go and invade Russia. And Turkey, a lot of their troops were left out. Officials were there, but troops were not were left out of the training sessions. So that's an
hmm.
interesting one.
Yeah, and that's will that put? I think that's pressure on Turkey to. I think Turkey has a choice now. Now they have there's two roads in front of them. Either continue to work with NATO and side with NATO and abide by what NATO is saying, or they can choose to do whatever they want, but they're going to be consequences. And part of that could Turkey
Hmm.
be expelled from NATO? Because now they have the choice. Now they're like, okay, there's going to be a full investigation. Obviously, they're just not going to be like, all right, you're out. There's going to be a full investigation. They're going to try to see what they're going to do with Turkey. But personally, I think that there's going to be more than just sanction repercussions. I think there's going to be certain NATO repercussions as well. And part of it was what you're saying is that NATO has left out Turkish troops. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to go even further than that. Now, what if maybe NATO does not want Turkey at the meetings because they might deem him as a risk now, a security risk, because
Yeah.
they've given away Western technology.
That's an interesting thought because the one of the biggest reasons why we wanted Turkey to join NATO is because of their strategic positioning of making sure that Russian Russians can't get nuclear weapons and put them in Turkey to point at Europe, and vice versa. Now we are able to put our, if in a case the scenario were to come, we could put our nuclear weapons and place them in Turkey and aim them straight directly and hit Moscow. But that's probably not going to happen. Them being kicked out. Repercussions of sanctions are, I think, likely to occur. I haven't heard any recent news of the United Kingdom or France or Germany putting sanctions on Turkey. There's probably many reasons for that in their minds. But the one thing that you make a good point is them not being able to sit in on meetings, and I think meetings like foreign relations and intelligence meetings would be something that the Turkish people cannot sit on. But that's going to have repercussions at very high levels because one of the things that, like you said, is that it's a binding contract when you're in NATO when you join, but it's not a binding contract that you just like can't leave. If your government, which is a very conservative government at the moment, winning the elections, decides to leave NATO, that's it. It's done. There's nothing more you can do. And if they start leaving the Turkish government officials and diplomats out of meetings that are important of high intelligence, that could signal that the Turkish are being ousted and that they might want to leave, consider leaving.
Right. And I don't think that um, NATO is going to fully try to isolate Turkey because, like you said, there's a strategic Turkey is a strategic position for NATO. So I think they're going to find where that fine line is of repercussions before it's too much. But now that this happened, I highly doubt that Turkey is ever going to get F-35s ever because they've been wanting F-35s for so long, or was it F-16s? I don't know which one it was, but
We definitely were not going to give them F-35s.
was I think it was F-16s,
It was
not
definitely
F-35s.
F-16s, yeah. But
Yeah.
still, you still want them. They're still the best jets in the world.
Well,
The
Turkey's not
second
getting
now.
them anymore
No.
because Turkey has been wanting F-16s for so long because Greece has had them. Because the United States has given Greece F-16s, Turkey has also wanted them. They were like, "Hey, what the heck? Like, what, what are you doing?" And we were thinking about it. The United States was considering it, but now after this, they're not getting that. So
No way.
that's
Erdogan needs to realize exactly what's happening right now. Let's put the hypothetical situation and say that those companies were acting alone. They were acting on self interest. The government had nothing to do with it. Erdogan had nothing to do with it. The fact that it's been a few weeks and we've heard no statements come out that Erdogan said that these companies were acting alone in their own self interest looks very, very bad on the Turkish government. So
hmm
even if it is true, it's been a while and they haven't let the public know. Now, the most likely situation is that the Turkish government wasn't on it. Erdogan wasn't on it because Erdogan is looking to have a more Turkish centered politics in his recent campaigning. Um, he's got to realize that he's now making an enemy of the strongest military force in NATO and the United States in the world, and also the largest economic might in the world. The EU and the United States combined for a GDP of over, what is it now? Almost 40 trillion. I mean, you're losing out on a lot of economic gains and securities if he continues down this path. So he's got to really be wary.
I understand on like him wanting to expand Turkish influence and the idea of the nationalistic Turkey and like, oh, Turkey is a part of everything. They want to kind of be that. How do I want to say it? They kind of want to be that face of like global work, but there's a fine line between trying to be friends with everyone and creating enemies, and that's what Turkey is doing. They were fine for just being that middle person, but now they've gone too far, and I think Erdogan needs to understand that yes, like it's a good thing that he wants to spread Turkish influence and make Turkey look good, but this is not making Turkey look good. And like you said, he has done nothing to show that these businesses or whatever acted in their own interest. So he's ruining his public image when his goal was to improve Turkey's public image as a global leader, and it's backfiring on him, and he really needs to come back and re-strategize a new plan to make Turkey look good because as the days pass, he makes Turkey look really bad.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, Turkey used to be the bridge between the Muslim world and the West. Well, now that influence is dwindling for Turkey, and now we're questioning him. And I believe this truly, and I think Saudi Arabia is going to be that new bridge. King Salman, he's doing a very good job at negotiating with countries in crisis, like for instance, the Sudanese civil war, and he is working with Israel now. Um, where we'll be doing a podcast on that for the next week, so please check up on that one with the new Israel and Saudi Arabia deals. But anyway, Saudi Arabia is becoming that new lead, and the UAE are becoming those new leads and bridging the Muslim world with the West. They're doing a fine job, and I think maybe one thing that's going through Erdogan's head is that he's losing his influence to other countries. Saudi Arabia is going to pass him if he doesn't start to realize what he's doing to the largest security partner in the world.
Totally agree. We'll keep watching on that because that's very interesting, and I want to know soon. Hopefully, there will be more information about what the UAE has done in response and what Turkey's doing in response. So um,
Absolutely.
we'll keep eye on it, and we will definitely be writing about it on our website. So please do check ngfnews.com for updates on everything we're talking about. But I don't
Absolutely.
got anything else to say on that. If we want to
Yeah.
go to China and Venezuela,
Yeah, let's move on. This is a very
perfect.
interesting topic too. I think it was our first topic of the week that we made and we discussed. It was China, Latin America's next chess move, or
It was
China's next chess
China's next
move,
best move, Latin
Latin
America.
America. And what we're seeing here is another foothold in Latin America. Now, this is a dictatorship. This is a tyrannical government working with, say this lightly, a communist government, but they're working together to create new economic trade and tourism agreements. This includes technological sharing information and also crude oil, because Venezuela is one of the largest oil producers in the world. So this is interesting because China is going to be deepening its ties in the United States backyard.
Can you repeat that one more time? You cut out.
Oh,
The
I'm
U.S.
saying that this is the United States in the backyard of the United States now.
Oh
China,
yeah.
they have
Oh,
a new trade
absolutely.
partner.
Yeah. And this is the extension of their Belt and Road Initiative because they
Yeah.
China is going to be looking more into Latin America and away from countries in Africa and other countries in around Africa, Latin America, and then in other countries in Asia. They, they know that it didn't work out. It's not working out in Africa, and it's not going to be working out in Asia, especially now when the United States, both the U.S., some European countries, Middle Eastern countries and India as well are all going to bridge a gap. Create a bridge through rail systems and a bunch of new infrastructure projects. So China's on the back end here, and their next move is going to be Latin America, and no better way to get started. Well, they're already started, but no better way to keep going in Venezuela because both Xi Jinping and Venezuela have good relations, and like you said, they've come up with new trade and tourism agreements. So one of the big things is their new oil investment. So China is going to be continuing oil purchases despite U.S. sanctions on Venezuela, and they're going to give Venezuela financial support through more loans and investments. So more debt trap for
Oh
Venezuela.
yeah. Well, here's a really awesome fact that shows what China does. They owe China $10 billion.
Hmm.
An oil country owes China $10 billion. Like that's nuts. It's one of the cases to show what China does is they trap you if you make a deal with them economically. They did it to Angola. They've done it to Zambia. They've done it to Ethiopia. They have done it to countless amounts of countries that they built their Belt and Road Initiative or made trade deals with. Venezuela is looking at trying to fix this issue with the Chinese. So they're going to be, this is why they have technology sharing. This is why they're going to be giving them more oil. And this is why they're trying to stress having tourism, because they want to spread Chinese influence across the globe. And with $10 billion just looming over your head, Venezuela has no choice. And the United States has a very big problem now. They are losing a lot of big grounds in terms of relationships with Latin America, and the Chinese are try and pick it up. Now, I don't know if you've read in the news recently between Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil, and Joe Biden. They created a new their I don't know if it's a bilateral pact or a trade agreement to help boost workers, basically the middle class around the world, and have support for workers around the world. And that's the first time in a long time that the U.S. has actually interacted like that on that big of a deal with a Latin American country. And they need to continue that, or else China is going to have a foothold.
Yep. And for Venezuela, they're more interested in BRICS, and they've been wanting they've expressed their support for the Belt and Road Initiative, even though they're getting effed.
Yeah.
it's 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 like
Rear-ended.
yeah, they're getting rear-ended, and they're like, we support it. And well, their main goal is BRICS. Venezuela wants to be a part of BRICS. They want to be a part of some multilateral organization because Venezuela is just sanctioned beyond belief of any really kind of being a part of any agreement, any piece of the global stage. And Venezuela wants to get back into that, and no better way is through China, and they want to be buddy buddy with China as much as they can to get some international recognition and get into BRICS because they know that in order to pay off their debt, BRICS is their really only option and only to get to make money.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
No, that's a great point, and because of the recent members that just joined BRICS as well, that it looks very enticing economically, and for their influence to be spread across the world. I have a hot take though. I just thought of this in my head. Brazil and India are going to leave BRICS in the future, in the next 2 years.
that is a hot take.
Yeah,
Brazil
one
and
thing,
India.
one reason for Brazil is Lula is very, very liberal for Brazilian president for Brazilians. He's very, very left leaning, and yes, that's what the communist government is in China. But Lula is very big on climate activism. He's very big on the middle class. He's very big on taking down um, the cartels and gangs in his country. But he's also big on working with the West to gain an advantage. And BRICS in some cases might not allow him to do that. Now, the only reason India will leave BRICS is if Modi is in charge and there's a continued border dispute. That's the only reason. If that solves itself, India's out. India will stay, but Lula, he might want to leave. He also is showing a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for, distrust in Russia at the moment.
No, I understand that it makes sense, and I think India is not going to leave, is going to leave, but for more than those two reasons, I think they're going to find the benefit. Should all these plans between the U.S., European, and Middle Eastern countries fall through, India really doesn't need BRICS anymore. If they're all these deals are going to fall through and they're going to be making money.
Yeah,
So what's it? What are they? What benefit are they going to find in BRICS unless BRICS starts to come together and make make trade deals, make multilateral agreements? But so far they're just adding countries, but nothing's been going on.
no.
So
Also, the Chinese economic situation right now, the economy is like very, very
exactly.
frightening. Very
So
frightening.
it's like they thought that BRICS might be something because they had Russia and China, these two big global powers running a new multilateral group, but it's like it's like now what? Now what?
India India is going to clash heads with China too because India is growing rapidly.
Oh yeah.
Their average GDP growth over the past 7 years has been 7%, versus the Chinese, which has been 3%. They're growing at a rapid rate. They're having allies on a rapid rate. I mean, it. They're going to realize that they're not going to need BRICS, and if they do want to be a part of BRICS, they want to be the leader. Why should China just be the leader, or and Russia?
BRICS is going to be one of those groups where it's just like a bunch of global South countries looking to join the international stage. And in order to do it, their first step is going to be through BRICS, graduate from BRICS, and then be a part of a new multilateral
Yeah,
organization.
but
So,
then you have to look at what happened in the recent G20 when the African Union joined. What does
oh
the
yeah, that is true.
then what happens there? You know,
Yeah,
you have 54 nations that just became a part of G20. So
G77
what's
exists
really
as
the
well.
point? Yeah, exactly. G77 exists. China does sit on that too. But what would be the point of BRICS? I mean, I know that China wants to create their own international system that's competing to, the World Bank. They have their new Global Development Bank and all that. But what realist? You're right. What realistically in the future is BRICS going to offer without more agreements? There's nothing that they can offer that G20 can't at a better rate.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe if they try to have the Chinese want to play a bigger influence in the international stage and be a more important currency around the world. That might be one of the benefits, but I don't see that happening. People think that
never.
the yuan is going to replace the dollar and things like
Oh
that.
my dude,
I people are it's unfortunate that the media is misinforming people and they're making it such a huge deal. It's like the yuan will never replace the dollar ever, not for a long
ever.
time.
Not for a long time. There's many reasons behind that too. Well, 88% of the currency market is still paid in US dollars. The yuan does not have enough gold or anything oil backing it. It's also worth 6 times less, 6.5 times less now than the US dollar. How the heck are you going to justify spending 6.5 times more of currency, printing 6.5 times more of currency? Because that's how it works. If $1 is equal to 6.5 yuan, you have to print 6.5 more of that yuan, which is going to hyperinflate it and make it worth absolutely nothing in the end of the day. So you're wasting your time by thinking that the yuan in the next 50 years is going to be the currency unless there are some drastic changes to what happens to the US dollar, which I just do not foresee.
And I want to tie this all back to Venezuela, where their
Yeah,
currency is also unbelievably just worthless. I mean, people, it's like, what is it? It's like a million something Venezuelan. What is the currency? Venezuelan,
I'm not sure what
whatever.
it is.
But it's
Venezuela pesos or something.
whatever it is. It is so bad that it's literally almost worthless. And it's like they're working with a country that they already owe $10 billion with a worthless currency.
Yeah,
What are they going to pay with? Two, what is China going to offer them besides the yuan? And they have to trade in if they trade in the yuan. What realistically? I don't understand what Maduro is saying. Where is the threshold? Where is the point in which Maduro is like, okay, this is like actually not working out for my country? How far in debt trap, how far in this Chinese partnership is going to go until he realizes that this is not for me?
yeah. He also just has no choice again because he's got $10 billion that he's got to give to Xi Jinping and the Chinese government. And also, I mean, going back to the currency, I mean, basically turning into a barter economy again
Hmm.
because trading something for something else is worth more than using Venezuelan currency. If you need bread, you can trade seeds to grow food and you for the bread. That is a barter economy like it was in the 13th century. That's basically what it's turned into in Venezuela.
Oh man.
And so you're right. I mean, Maduro, I don't know what he's not seeing on having to work with the Chinese and all the debt that he's in, but he also just doesn't have a choice. When you owe the Chinese money, they make you pay in something, whatever it is. I mean, we've seen that countless of times over in Africa.
I I don't know how much longer Maduro's going to be in power, but he's going to hold on to power for as long as possible. But
Yeah,
I hope soon that something happens for Venezuela where they can go back into the international stage and not be isolated from the rest of the world. But
we shall see the future.
not happening for a while until Maduro is gone. But
Yeah, we
I
might
don't
be
have
dead.
anything else on this. Oh, did you see? I mean,
Yeah, we might be dead by the time Venezuela turns around.
yeah. But all right, that's all I have to say for China and Venezuela.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Cool. So thank you all for listening to this week's latest global developments. We hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.